Yes. Monday. Was there excitement on the weekend? Well, there would have been if I just gambled the way I told everyone to gamble. But oh no, old blabbermouth sitting there scared at home, so I tried to make these most amazing parlays to include the Cleveland Cavaliers. And yesterday I got sunk by two teams. Liverpool, they were shit. And then, of course, I thought maybe Tampa Bay would squeeze one out over the Blue Jays. They did not. And then I cashed out early on in-play and ended up getting nothing. Way to go. So it wasn't as exciting for me on the weekend as I had hoped. And that's how it went there, Davey. What about you on the weekend? Was there excitement on the weekend for you?
There's always excitement on the weekend. It's a lot of family time, of course. Not too much gambling time, but that's fine.
Do you enjoy the family time or secretly? I know that a lot of your family watches, and they're Greek people.
Yes,
very passionate people. So
yes, they are.
So you love the family life.
Yeah.
Right now.
It's the greatest time. What a time to be alive.
Oh. Well, who's not alive? Raptors. They are not alive, and there is no surprise here. We've been talking about it for the last week, and I think that it's very interesting how, we're going to hear some comments from Coach Casey. You're going to hear some comments from DeMar DeRozan. But as we take a look at, Game 4, ultimately the mismatch that we're going to see here if you're watching on YouTube on the dedicated channel. But really, the series never was close.
And the Raptors can take the lead.
Contact with LeBron. And he's been able to, knock a
Right on the clock. Irving a deep three. Yeah. Oh, wow. Isolated here with 8 on the clock against Joseph.
Tough cover.
Beat him on the drive again.
Well, look, come on. He's higher on the release.
They're going to dial up Kyrie Irving's number again here.
Well, why not?
You do what they want.
Taking out his do-it-yourself kit. Off glass. Good. Timeout, Raptors. Could be closing time.
How about the left-hand block? Do you think?
Here's LeBron James,
down
who
to
just
6.
basically could do what he
they want
wanted.
to get the switch with
whenever he wanted.
Tucker on Thompson, but he went through it.
Tucker right with him, and LeBron drills it anyway.
So, once again, that's enough of that, and that was enough of what we saw, and that courtesy, of course, of NBA TV and TNT showing us exactly, and that was just encapsulating what the whole series was, which was whenever Kyrie wanted to do something, whenever LeBron wanted to do something, and it didn't even have to be necessarily just those two. But when I look at those two, who else did you need?
Nothing.
I mean, you had Channing Frye, whether it was Tristan Thompson. It didn't matter who was out there at that time. It really didn't matter if we're just looking at it on paper. In this case, what it said on paper was exactly what you saw on the court.
LeBron James, first player, Mike, in NBA history to score 35 or more points in a 4-game sweep of a series. First player ever. Dominant. And you know what? I know at the start, and they still are the favorites, the Golden State Warriors, but man, can you bet against the Cavaliers against the Golden State Warriors?
No, I don't think you ever bet against, a guy that I consider probably by the time of the end of his career could be considered the greatest player ever. Now, you're going to get in these arguments. You're going to hear about Michael Jordan. You're going to hear a lot of these things. And look, that's what guys like to do. They like to debate. But I think of its time, I look at what LeBron does, and I don't know if there's really anything, even in terms of being a specimen. Like what physically, Dave, what he actually is. How are you supposed to stop that? So in some ways, when you start pinpointing and picking on the Raps about what they did or did not do, I think it kind of doesn't matter. So when Coach Casey is asked about his team, he's a quality guy. He's very accountable, so he's going to put it on himself. I personally don't think it's true, but if you're Coach Casey, I know what he's going to say.
Those guys have created. So, again, we all want to win. And, again, I've said that I don't know if we're there yet. We're knocking on the door. I like our team. I wish we had a little bit more time for them to gel together. I didn't do a good enough job to get them to gel in quick enough time to play a championship level. But each guy in that locker room contributed in some way.
So there you have Coach Casey talking about what he thought the reason was And Davey put it on himself, saying that the team didn't have enough time to gel. Well, that's
a coaching thing.
That's an admirable thing to say, but I just don't think it's accurate. You just don't have the kinds of horses that the other team does.
They picked up some nice players at the deadline with Serge Ibaka and PJ Tucker and guys like that, but let's be honest, they could have picked up 4 or 5 additional players and still would not have beaten the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's just the way it is.
It's the reality of who you've got and who I've got. And who you've got is better than what I've got, regardless of Ibaka and Tucker. Again, sort of in a year where it was sort of up for grabs, where maybe competitively there wasn't an elite team in the East, but that's what you have. You have a dominant team in the East, and so therefore, what is going to be made in the offseason, and this is what we're going to see right now. So DeMarre Carroll does what is very popular, which means you bring your child onto the podium. I hate that. I hate that shit. I just hate it. Like, what is that supposed to tell me? That you're a great father, a human being. It's a press conference after a game where you got lit up. I mean, you got pumped, and now it's 4 straight, and I don't think we need your 6-year-old daughter making faces and she does, eating a donut or whatever it is up there. It just drives me nuts. We don't need that. We just want answers. And, of course, one of the big questions is going to be, is this team going to be together in the offseason? Here's DeMar DeRozan.
It's hard to break down a team, that won 50-plus games 2 years in a row, with the core guys. But, that's on upper management. Us as players, we got to be ready for whatever. The guys that's free, the guys that's coming back, we got to understand, we got to work on our game, come better, and, we got to leave it up to the front office to figure out everything else.
Yeah, we got to leave it up to the front office. That's not our jobs. We know the business.
Yeah.
We love, everybody on our team like they're our brothers. And we just got to, come back and with whoever we have and hopefully everybody and just play hard.
Everybody love everybody. Everybody love everybody. Yeah, thanks for that.
Big step back coming up this next year for the Raptors. I don't know if I see them signing some of these free agents, Mike. When you look at Serge Ibaka, Kyle Lowry, PJ Tucker, Patrick Patterson, all could be gone from this organization, and I don't know if I'd blame them for not re-signing these guys.
Well, Dave, you have to make an argument. If you're looking at those players, you got to give me an argument for why you would keep each and every one of them. So Patrick Patterson, I can't give you that argument. Or Ibaka, was that a return of a piece that is going to make you competitive?
I thought Serge Ibaka was better than the way Serge Ibaka was advertised in the NBA. I thought he was going to bring a lot more toughness that really wasn't around. I'm not saying I sit there and I want this to happen, but could somebody throw a hard foul at LeBron James in one of the 4 games, please?
And and we'll give you $100 apparently if you're able to do that. But how many guys can do that? So if you can't, here's what I think is interesting, and I'll make a comparison to the NFL. So you figure that New England is going to go and let's say you're in the AFC. So if you're in the AFC, any of these teams that you believe that is going to be, let's say, number 2, if indeed you consider for a decade almost every year that it's New England. If they make a change at receiver or they have the equivalent of what we think is a LeBron James, so let's say it's Gronk. If you're that team that's the number 2, if you're Denver, if you're whoever it happens to be in that year, then I need to go out and either draft or get a piece through free agency that has the ability to slow that prick down. Like, I just have to, because I know that that's what they're bringing. So in order for me to stop that, what do I need to do? You have to go out and get that piece that maybe it's not even the perfect equivalent on the defensive side or the shutdown side. But, Dave, they go out, and you see that all the time in the NFL. If they can't stop their number 1, this is in terms of receiver, then you're going to see some team, whoever it is, and I'm just using the AFC as an example, you can tell exactly they're going, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm getting the shutdown corner. I'm going out and I'm getting a safety that's a killer. I am drafting.
It's smart.
A guy in the defensive backfield that is going to be my number 1 in that particular position. So if you're the Raptors, you just saw it 2 years in a row, up close and personal. If you don't address that exactly how I think in the blueprint that I just described, then you're never going to beat them, and you're just going to wait till what? those guys move on,
retire.
injured.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, LeBron still has years in him left. Like he's not done doing what he's doing. So I don't know. Now might be the time to retool. That this Raptor team could get back on top in like 3 or 4 years when LeBron James is 36 years old. I just don't know any other way of handling that now.
If you're serious about it, then you have to go out and make those moves where you could at least make a dent in a man who's built like an apartment building. Like I get it. I mean, what if there is no answer for LeBron? But you've got to address anything else on the court, and picking up a Tucker, Serge Ibaka, which is a nice piece if he had other pieces to go to. But you just don't have the same kind of horses. It's not. I don't think it's Coach Casey's fault, but it's, a Kyle Lowry who's laid it on the line for the Raps each and every game. I get it. Wasn't even dressed yesterday. So how do you think his stock is going to be as years go on? It's going to be the highest that it is right now. Do you think it's going to be higher in a year? I don't think so. So if I'm making the tough sacrifice to get better, then it might be just that, which is a tougher Raptor fan. I get it.
Yeah, it might be like so if you're in the Raptors, let's take a look at like Kyle Lowry, for example. He's already on the bad side of 30, getting there. He's already, every single year we've seen Kyle Lowry, especially for the last 3 or 4 years, there's always been some sort of nagging injury that comes up in March and April. If it's not the back, it's the wrist, it's a knee, it's something. These things don't heal themselves as the body gets older. It gets worse. We're seeing it, in spades with Jose Bautista. Whether or not he's injured or not,
that's why
things have caught up.
That's why Tiger Woods isn't going to win another major. He's not. The pieces don't work.
He may
the
not
same.
win another tournament.
Yeah. It's just the way that it is, and I think you're delusional to think otherwise. That somehow that these guys are going to get back together and win. What does it matter that they've won 50 games in the last 2 years? Historically, and for the franchise, it's something to talk about. But if I'm looking at next year, are you going to still be relying on the fact that you had 250 game win seasons?
Yeah, I know. See, I if I'm the Raptors, I'm also looking at moving out DeMar Carroll because that free agent signing did not work out one bit.
No.
And I'm sorry, but Jonas Valanciunas hasn't really fit into what this culture of NBA is right now. He is a big guy that can't defend, and he isn't very quick. Bigs in today's NBA shoot the three, defend, can guard multiple players. This guy doesn't seem to be it. He's a nice NBA player. I think he's going to be around for the next 10 years. It might be more of a backup role somewhere, but I'm sorry, he hasn't worked out.
Guys will pay him. There are teams that will pay a guy to have a role like that to come off the bench and do some stuff. But in terms of the progression of what I thought you might see, and maybe it's even within the system and the kinds of players that they have on this team, do you think Kyle and DeMar wanted to pass the ball to him a whole bunch? When those two guys are in the court, I know that ball's not going. That ball doesn't go to him.
Because that was the hope, him to be that triangle. You have DeMar, you have Kyle, and you're crossing your fingers at one time that Valanciunas is the answer to the three. Because the teams that are good, they have the three. Yeah. They have the three people that will, look at the Golden State Warriors and why do you think they're going to be in the final? And look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like, we already know what the final's going to look like in late June.
Yeah, for the argument about engagement in sports, that's kind of what sucks about the NBA. Because at some point you kind of know who's going to be standing there. It's like, who do you think's going to win? Ooh.
And if you're saying that, you're really stupid.
Yeah, you know who's
You're
gonna
not
win.
paying attention.
Yeah, which is why did I not just take that $350 and bet and we were just trying to figure out the money now. So $350 times two, that's $5,600 in one series, and I didn't do it. And I didn't lay the coin because I got no stones. I'm a chicken. I talk a big game, and what do? I'll put down like $25 on a parlay with goofy teams from Germany, Asian women's ping pong, whatever it is, just to avoid the fact that I can pad it a little bit and not be scared to lose it. But they were never going to not cover those. They covered every single game. They were just asking you, just take our money, give it to us, and we'll give it back twice as big. And I never did it because I'm a chicken. It makes me sick to my stomach. By the way, thanks to Henry's Cameras for helping us out here today. Here's Henry's Cameras.
They're the best.
They know. They would have put it down.
Man. Follow the Orange Crush.
Yeah, follow the. Yeah, I just can't believe that I didn't do that. If you're looking at some engaging stories, and there's a bunch of kind of great human stories in terms of actual life going on around the game and the sport itself. And so we'll take a look at actually right now at Houston. So Houston goes back to kind of really mixing it up. I think for the Spurs, they were just a little shocked who was getting it done. Lou Williams again. Skip to my Lou, 3-pointers. And 3-pointers really the key in beating the Spurs yesterday. So they get right back in it, but they did it with the 3-ball.
Answer gets fouled behind that 3-point line as well.
Anderson 3.
Yes!
Thanks, Coach.
Rocket shot 63% net third. Beverly kicks it outside. Ariza on top. Gordon 3. He sharpened his tools here in the postseason. Gordon a step back. 3. No! He got another one!
Yeah, that is remarkable stuff. The 3 balls do it, and they get through, Dave. And there were a lot of people who thought that maybe Houston wouldn't get into it, but 125-104. That series is tied at 2, as is Washington-Boston. One of the big stories, not unlike Boston with Isaiah Thomas, who lost his younger sister, it was Patrick Beverly. And I guess just before game time, he found out that he lost his grandfather. But in his family situation, it was the grandfather that I guess basically raised like an entire generation of his family. And so I guess it was just devastating. And again, where we've seen these difficult stories, it's post-game where he kind of fills everyone in on just exactly what his family lost.
Go out there and I try to go out there and play as hard as I could for my teammates tonight, man. And it's just tough. I had to be there for my grandmother. I mean, that's the only man she knew for the last 26 years. I had to be there for my mom. I had to be there for my cousins back home in Chicago. It's just tough, man. It's tough. It's so tough, man, because everybody know I work so extremely hard to prove myself each and every night, and to have somebody that was right there supporting me the whole way. Wore my jerseys every single day of his life. Wore my Russian jerseys every single day of his life, man. To have a person like that, man, just been taken from you is hard. It's so hard, but I'm gonna keep my faith, of course, and I'm gonna be there for my family. But anyone who has grandparents, mothers, whatever, to have them taken away from you is super, super hard.
So that's, once again, Patrick Beverly talking about that. And we saw that with Isaiah Thomas. These are the human sides of things. But I think sometimes, Dave, where we don't think about it. I don't think really when we start talking about professional athletes, even though family's sometimes thrown in, at the end of the day, I don't think fans in general really think a whole bunch about it. You want your team to win. You want your fantasy pool guys to do well. You want to see a championship. Hey, you're gambling on these guys. And you just want to see him put up his 25 or 30, get his, if he gets a triple-double, whatever it happens to be. But I think at times the hardest thing is to realize just the human beings that they are. And I'll give you a great example, Dave. The entry draft. And the first one I went to was really sort of an eye-opener because we see the name on the back of the jersey. Before they're drafted, we talk about them literally like the piece of meat that they are, whether in hockey's case where what we see with the juniors. If you're from one of those smaller areas where junior hockey's big, you know all about it. For the most part, junior-level hockey players are known because of the World Juniors. That's where we know their names. But we know their names. But when you see the entry draft and you see them with their parents and then you see them with their siblings, so it might be like, like your little girls where the guy who's being drafted, you realize how young his face actually is, and he's holding the other kids' hands while they're having an ice cream. You kind of sit there and go, oh, that's right.
It's very much so.
You know what I mean?
And they look so young.
Really young.
Like really young. And yeah, it's a special moment in the family, right?
It's graduation to a degree because it's a graduation for them, and it
really
looks like
is,
graduation, Dave.
Yeah, it really does. And it's almost like the surprise graduation because you don't know where you're going, and all of a sudden, Minnesota is on the board, and and it's them, and you see the camera shoot. It's actually really exciting. I think the NHL draft is one of my favorite drafts to watch. NFL's more commercialized, and it's almost like a a running billboard that's advertising something, or there's some sort of agenda where the NHL is almost like at its grassroots itself.
And when you watch the NFL, and I love the NFL draft.
So do I.
But the programs that they're coming from, we've seen them on national television all year, and depending on how many years they've spent in college, it might be a couple of years of knowing who, Deshaun Watson is. So when he goes, I remember that game against Alabama, the national championship. When the junior guys go, once they get into like 3, 4, or 5 and beyond that, how many Kitchener Ranger games did you watch? I mean, how many Red Deer Rebel games do you watch if you're not from Red Deer? You really don't know a whole bunch about these guys in the NFL. If they start talking about Johnny Manziel, we know all about Johnny Manziel. We knew about Andrew Luck. You know about these guys because they've been on the national stage on the fronts of magazines for a year or two. By the time they get there, we know all about them. We know about their parents. We know about them, or we perceive that we know about them. But Russell Graham gets drafted by the Columbus Blue Jackets at number 11. People are like, who? Number one, wasted pick. Terrible pick.
Why would they go in that direction?
They thought it was Mitch Marner, obviously, just by looks. And then they've made a huge mistake. Now, if we're taking a look at the NHL from last night, if you want to call it a shocker, I took the over. I'll give you that. But for Edmonton to do what they did, Dave, 7-1, and it was over in a matter of minutes. Were you? I mean, not surprised.
It was pretty awesome.
You like it?
Yeah, I loved it. I wanted them to score 10.
I think Canada, and get me if I'm wrong, sometimes you're not happy and the rest of Canada doesn't necessarily cheer for another Canadian team. But I think people are kind of on that Edmonton bandwagon.
Yeah, I'd agree. Out of the teams that are remaining, especially because nobody wants Ottawa to do anything or expects Ottawa to do really anything, which kind of has surprised me, but we'll talk about that another time because that series isn't even up until Tuesday. Edmonton might be that team that people want to see continue, and I desperately want to see them play Nashville. One more game.
Well, here's the thing. As we've started this and you see us working with clips as we're trying to get approval from leagues to do this, we've got a lot. I mean, NBA, they're in right away. I mean, we courtesy them. We courtesy everybody. Major League Baseball, no problem, boys. So what's the NHL's problem? We're a daily show. There were in the sports/news slash what do they call it? Current affairs. So free usage is really what we're talking about. But apparently not by the NHL for whatever stupid reason. So I can't really show you what happened in Edmonton, but I can kind of recreate it. So what?
We sure can.
What happened in that first period, Dan?
Okay, let's start it off here. Edmonton opens up the scoring, Mike. 2 minutes, 45 seconds into the game. The crowd goes nuts. Leon Draisaitl.
It's Draisaitl going in on goal. He shoots, and he scores. There we go. There's the goal. Draisaitl. He scores it. 2:54. I want to say 2:54 of the first period.
And it was more Oilers all the time. It was Draisaitl once again. 7 minutes, 22 seconds into the period.
He's going right on goal there. Draisaitl for the second time. He shoots. He scores. Draisaitl right on the fucking right side. And oh, yes, indeed, it's Scooby Doo. It's 2-0. Fucking 2-0.
Mike, more Oilers all the time.
Oh, my God.
It's Zach Kassian scoring his third of the playoffs only a minute later.
And they're going around the goal. He scores! It's all fucking in his head. Fucking nothing. They can't fucking believe it. The place is fucking crazy.
And that would be the night for John Gibson. Pulled after only 6 shots. 3 of them go in. That's a .500 save percentage. Not very good at all.
That's not a very good category, Dave.
More Oilers.
No.
It's Mark Letestu. 11 minutes, 39 seconds into the first.
Letestu going around the run front. Letestu. He serves a score. Letestu. I can't fucking believe it. It's going to fucking score. And it's 4-0. And they're going fucking crazy. It's only the first fucking period. Holy fucking Jesus.
And the first period scoring would not.
I'm exhausted. I can't. It's a lot of goals, Steve. That's a lot of goals.
Let's just say the Oilers had a 5-0 lead at the end of 20 minutes of play.
That clip not courtesy of the NHL. Yeah, we'll do it ourselves. We don't need you. I don't need you. Unbelievable. And you mentioned, of course, Nashville 3-1 over St. Louis, but that thing was tight all the way into the third period.
It was.
And St. Louis.
They added an empty net goal,
Yeah.
so you can kind of see how tight that game actually
No, this
was.
I had.
And then,
On one of them, I took puck line, which is crazy. I'm going, yeah, we talk about it all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, but if they just pull the goalie, come on, do it, and get into the net.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Minute left, 3-1 the final. So
Yeah,
Nashville
then I look
wins
down.
like-
Then I look down on my parlay and go, "Oh, Liverpool! You fucking kidding me? You pieces of garbage, scouts of bastards! Can't you fucking win that one?" Sorry, Dave. It pisses me off.
7-1 the final. Edmonton wins. By the way, the Ducks have lost 5 straight Game 7s, and 4 of those losses have been on home ice.
Oh man,
Edmonton and the Ducks, Game 7. I cannot wait for this one.
that is going to be great.
Yes.
But I don't even know if I can make a call on that because Game 7s are their own animal, as you know. Like, it doesn't even necessarily have to reflect. Because I'll be honest, it was strange to see in a Game 6 that happen. I've seen that happen in a Game 7 where all of a sudden a complete departure from these 2-1 or 3-2 games you've seen for 6 games, and then something weird happens in a Game 7. That, to me, is what happens in a Game 7. So I have no idea what – I mean, you're not seeing that, I wouldn't think, in a Game 7. And I don't even know if you see necessarily an explosive – I mean,
Are you
these teams
tempted to play the under if it's 5.5 goals?
I think so.
Because you almost think
The
that
gaming guys would do that.
like Randy Carlyle probably has a meltdown and go, what the hell happened here? How do we break down defensively like this? Maybe it's a 3-2 win. Hopefully it's a 3-2 win for
I
the
could see
Edmonton
something
Oilers.
like that. Here we go. Here's another really nice story. Now, Scott Sutherland, Suchy's got a little bit of take on this one. It's a story with Kyle Turris, and I guess we'll get. Is he? What's he doing? Is he at the bar?
I don't know. He went that way.
Just open up the door and yell Suds. It's okay. This is it's a
Suds?
yeah, Suds. We're gonna talk about that nice story, that nice family story you were talking about. By the way, Ottawa.
It's a good approach. I like it.
Ottawa annoyed everybody, and they win.
How the hell did the Senators win?
5-4. The winner was by Kyle Turris.
I like Kyle Turris, but I was surprised, holy hell, that the Sens actually came back and won that game.
So Kyle Turris does something really kind of cool. I heard about the story this morning from our good friend Scott Sutherland, who's also known as Suds, or Sud Sarama, or Sarama. And I was unaware of exactly what it is that Kyle Turris and I believe his wife that they do in the Ottawa area. But it is
It's a great story.
It's a really cool story. We've got some pictures we can show as well. But Sudsy, who's put down the booze for 5 seconds, which is really nice. He actually put up some of the lighting earlier today and almost killed Russell.
The guy does it all.
He did. But this is actually a pretty cool story, Suds. You told me about it this morning.
Yeah, it's a good friend of mine from high school. Her son is a special needs boy, and he's a part of this hockey league. It's called the Capital City Condors. And so anyway, they had their annual banquet on Saturday night, and she's at the banquet with her son, and they make an announcement that, of course, Kyle can't show up tonight. He's the honorary captain of this foundation, he and his wife. And so anyway, they made mention that Kyle wasn't going to be able to show up. And so during the event, of course, it's right at the start of dinner that goes into overtime. Everybody's watching kind of a screen that they had set up. Kyle scores. Everybody freaks out.
Yeah, because this is their hero. I mean, he set up this entire league. They understand why he's not there because they can see him on television, and of all things, he scores the OT winner. It's unbelievable.
Yes, so, everybody obviously loves Kyle, and so they're all watching and excited for him. And about 70 minutes later, he and his wife walk in the building, and, she explained it to me that it was almost surreal to think that a player of this magnitude who just scored the overtime winning goal in a very important game shows up at the banquet, he and his wife, after quickly showering, doing a myriad of interviews, and then getting in their car, driving to the hotel for this event. She just said to see the look on the kids' faces, and of course the parents, crying basically, to think that Kyle would think enough of these kids to actually do what he did, I think is just remarkable.
It's a great story, and it's one of those stories that, I mean, again, if you're in the Ottawa area, I suppose you're familiar with what they do, but I think the fact that it's been brought to a national spotlight, I think is really great. And
I think it's fantastic. I also think that it's even more impressive that he's doing this in the middle of the playoffs, because a lot of times when you're talking to an NHL player currently in the playoffs, they are in suburbia. They are blocked in. They don't do anything extra. Like a lot of times, even when they're on the road, food is ordered in for them. They don't leave the actual hotel. I know it was in Ottawa and so forth, but man, this is tremendous, and I could only imagine how great the kids felt about this one.
You're listening and watching Raw Mike Richards on rawmikeRichards.com. You could be on the YouTube channel. Of course, make sure you download the podcast as well, brought to you by Henry's Cameras, Abbey Studio, and our good friends at Eggplant Pictures. We appreciate all the support. Sudge, you want to talk some more?
Yeah, this is my first time on. I'm just really excited.
Yeah.
No, actually,
you can tell.
We can tell.
You can tell it's your first time.
Yeah. I mean, it was a great story. It's a lovely story. Yeah. Just you were a little shit. But I'm just saying, it was
So actually, I just one more little comment, which I thought was pretty interesting. I was talking to a Senators guy official, and he had mentioned that where they were hosting this event was the hotel where the Rangers stayed, and as Kyle came out of the banquet, he and his wife, a couple of the Rangers were coming into the building, and we're talking to Kyle, and I think their impression of Kyle also certainly elevated to think that he did that too. So anyway,
yeah, imagine.
Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Okay, that's enough.
Hijacking
the show.
I like the way the tourists, the Kyle Tourist charity decided to put it in the Ranger. I think that's good.
Throwing that in at the end, I thought,
I like that.
Oh, I see.
We're just going to score the overtime winner and shove it in your face.
Yeah. And what are the Rangers going to say? Hey, you
Oh.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah, how could you get mad at that?
What are you going to say? Now
Never.
Get mad at those kids?
That's awesome.
You're not so good. What are you doing? What are you saying? Okay, here's the weirdo world, and it's one that sometimes I'll never quite get what interests people. However, in an 18-inning game, 18 innings, the Yankees.
That's a long time.
18 innings, so 2 games. They're playing 2 games.
What's the longest you've stayed at a baseball game?
Oh,
I was going to say.
I usually don't make 9.
4 innings.
Yeah, you know me. I'm like, has the game started yet? Jesus Christ, do something out there. Someone said, when you go to second base, set yourself on fire. Let's get a sniper going. Let's do something because someone's got to pick up the pace. It's 5-4 in 18. And by the way, the Yankees, at some point, are we just going to say this might be the American League team that's going to come out of this thing? Now, I know
they're going to be contenders. I don't think they're the team, but
and Dave, too, when you look down the road with what they've built and the young players coming up there.
Oh, don't get me wrong. The Yankees will be winning a World Series in the next 4 years. Guaranteed they're going to be winning. I just don't know if it's this year.
Well, they play the Cubs. Boy, if Major League Baseball
can sign off on this.
Do you mind seeing a Yankee-Cub World Series?
The only thing better than this, well, I don't know if it would be better, because I was going to say
anytime LA's in it, it's good.
They don't want the Dodgers.
Dodgers Yankees has to be ultimately the 2 markets like that size, I believe, would be.
But I mean, the Cubs are, just because of the fan appeal of everything Universal with the Cubs. The Cubs winning last year was magnificent. Just for but the Yankees are too.
People would never think in their lifetime they were going to see that.
Yes, you're right.
And
and some people didn't.
Yeah, there have been people who didn't quite make it. I know they're going to be saying that about the Leafs. I know some people, but hold on that thought too. Just hold on to that one. So 5-4, and when you're trying to see highlights, and once again, I was getting ready to say courtesy of our friends at Major League Baseball. So you go in where I hunt for some of the clips, and so I want to look for certain names on those that obviously made it happen. So in 18 innings, you're trying to figure out who exactly was the hero. So Starlin Castro.
Yep.
So I put in Starlin Castro, 18 innings, Cubs, Yankees, thinking that I'm going to actually see the game that I'm searching for. Well, I put it in. I see something about the MLB, the show, and again, if you want to watch it, you can see it later on our website. But this is what I find.
The batter, number 14.
Oh,
second baseman.
Here's Starlin Castro.
Yeah.
He's 0 for 1 thus far.
yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute. I'm watching it. It's not the real game. It's an Xbox game. It's some freaking.
First pitch of the at-bat
No.
on its way.
I'm going.
Takes a good curveball at the knee.
Period at his pitch. What is this? It's one of those loser, freak, douchebag,
No runs, 3 hits.
And they posted it.
Yeah, okay. All right, get rid of It's just what we're doing in this world now? No, do I live in a fantasy world? Yeah, the majority of the time I actually do.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just don't share it a whole bunch. And I certainly am not putting it on YouTube. The dates that I've had with, over the years, Cindy Crawford, Penelope Cruz, Elle McPherson.
That's not going to YouTube?
You really don't see me sitting there going, so, Elle, would you like another Chardonnay? I'm just really not doing that because it now, do I do it? Yeah, maybe I do it at home. Maybe that's what I do. But I'm not putting it for the whole world to see. What are you putting your game? Are you aware of this? That people are putting...
I've seen it.
Like, was it Guitar Hero? Do you want to see me play with Metallica?
They put a lot of stuff on YouTube, Mike.
You're not fucking playing. You're not playing. It's not an instrument. It's not really guitar. It's a series of you putting fingers on colors.
You know who puts stuff on YouTube?
Who?
That guy over there.
No, Russell, you do not.
I bet you he does.
Russell, grab that microphone.
I bet you he does.
Do you put some of your...
Yes, he does. You've never posted anything to YouTube.
Yeah,
yes or no?
Yes or no? Yes or no?
I have.
Thank you.
There it is.
Thank
My goodness.
you.
Boy.
But not in about, I want to say like...
A couple of weeks?
8 years.
Oh.
I posted something not that long ago, but it was private just because it was a video I made for my friends.
Wait.
Okay.
Girlfriends or guy friends?
In this video.
A group of friends.
In this video, was there any blindfolds or anything?
There was not.
Okay. Well, that's good so far.
All right. Yes. Were there living objects in this video? More than just you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh. Were they all two-legged? These other beings?
Only one of them.
Only one. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we want to.
I see, because my guess was...
you said, hey, do you want to see Russell's private video? Do you want to see it? What's your answer?
I don't know.
No.
I don't think
absolutely
so.
not. I don't want to see that.
Because I was thinking it would be him holding one character and him holding the other going, hey, Luke, Darth Vader's about to attack the galaxy.
Yeah, that's right.
What are we going to do?
Yeah. No, Russell Hughes. Russell, what's going on? Are you doing your puppet shows? I'm gonna leave you alone. Holy fucking do the show. Yeah, we don't need to see that. We don't need to see that video. So,
but knowing him, because he is as smart as he is, he probably got like 10 million views.
Yeah, you did. Probably did.
Because he his Jedi magic trick computer something.
If I see Star Wars Puppet Show 10 million views, I'm going to be pissed off, just so you know. But here's the thing. So in looking at what is motivating this world, esports, stadiums, competitors, simulated video games, multiplayer games, and so competitive gaming has taken over the world. So you got different tournaments. You got the International, the League of Legends World Championship, the Battle.net World Championship Series, the Evolution Championship Series, and the Intel Extreme Masters. This is something that I would have thought was a joke years ago. Sure, a fantasy of those that aren't good at anything. Mm-hmm. So those who are not necessarily going to be drafted in a sport, I don't think you're doing this. But the reality is, on something like, you know when you watch the movie Dodgeball, and you kind of laugh at it, it's kind of funny, and there are a lot of great lines, and kind of, it makes me laugh. Ben Stiller.
He's actually a pretty good character in that.
But guess what? Not only is it big around the world, because I think half of this stuff, all the champions are from like South Korea or something, aren't they? I mean, the majority. Now, this is actually from the 2016 World Championships. And if you haven't seen what it looks like, this is not a spoof. This isn't like Mad TV or something. This is a moment. They call moments from the World Championship. And if you're watching it, maybe you've seen it, maybe you're in it, but this was news to me.
MLXG is looking for the kill. Sonic Wave connects. Resonating strike. Duke might just survive. Mega Man's going up. The boomerang.
Oh my goodness.
The high
Oh!
survive. SK Telecom advance to the semi-final.
Look at these guys.
He is still chasing on the Deft, who's nearly out of HP. The chase in for
This
Prey.
is like,
First blood.
I'm not sure
F2
what
for
game
Peanut.
they're playing,
It
but
might
listen
be
to the
a
crowd.
third.
It's a stadium. People are
It's
chanting.
gonna be the rematch of Worlds last year.
Oh, it's going to be a rematch.
Revenge on SK Telecom T1, hoping to win a world championship.
Okay, look at this. Look at this. Then the viewing in on New York City, and is it just me?
Big league sports, man. Big league sports. Lots of money.
Some of these kids make like 6 figures.
Exactly.
6 figures.
Playing video games.
Like, this would have been sort of the shut-in fantasy I would have thought about 10, 15 years ago. But this is a bona fide big league money-making entity. And I got to be honest, up until 6 months ago, I didn't even heard of this thing. Because, let's face it, in the families that we grew up in, do you think they would stomach any of us being in our basement practicing this, saying that it was actually a valuable use of our time?
No.
There's no way.
There was always limits on how long you could actually play with your Nintendo, Coleco, Atari, Sega, whatever game it was, right?
Like, I just didn't have that growing up. I did what they called, what's it called again? Oh, yeah, sports.
Because I liked playing Blades of Steel and stuff like that, but if I had a choice between Blades of Steel and playing in the driveway, I'm going to the driveway every single time. I'm going to the street. I'm picking up a real stick.
You're playing in your basement. What do they call it? Mini sticks now.
Bingo.
Like, you're down there taking a tennis ball, taking a wrist shot, goes off a painting of Nana goes off her head or whatever. In the goal, that counts. It completely counts. It's the stuff that used to do. I mean, someone said, remember being called in saying that when the street lights come on. I mean, this is the most common phrase that I got when I was young. When the lights come on, you got to come in. And so sometimes, like, there were so many kids out there, Dave, we had a whistle. And I knew that 3 whistles,
yes,
that was my family's.
My dad could whistle, it seemed like five blocks, and we'd know that was his whistle. And that meant get home now. And if you didn't get home, there's going to be consequences.
Yeah, well, something's going to be taken away, and you just didn't want that.
It was like, okay, we're heading home. Let's go.
By the way, here's Kung Fu Zombie tweeting in this today, though I can say this morning. If you'd like to be a part of it, at Mike Richards, it's at Raw Mike Richards, and of course at David Bastel, if you want to get in the conversation. Kung Fu Zombie says, my son is going to be a repeat gold medalist at the video game championships. Okay, I don't believe things you say.
Yeah,
but,
coming from him, I think
yeah.
He's being sarcastic.
I don't know if they also want to say, well, we have to write down a lot of information when you enter the tournament. Your father is Kung Fu Zombie. Yeah. Although in that world, that's probably, oh, wow, no way, I'm freaking out. That's unbelievable. But isn't that interesting? When we talk about, and you said, being outside, the winter time, and this gets back to sometimes when we talk about kids and hockey, it meant 2 things. At home, and I'm talking about the home life now. We always had a rink. The rink always had boards all around it, too. Higher-end boards at the end where the actual nets were, and it had lights. We actually had lights, the boards, the whole thing. If we weren't on there, actually behind us in a forest, so it's slightly rural area where I grew up, there was a pond. So it was either pond hockey, playing on your rink, or in front of my house, it was ball hockey. There's your three venues right there, and we played all of them. And I think at that point, there was a lot of creativity. And I've heard Gretzky talk about this a million times when it comes to the kind of games that we're watching now. There's no question that today's hockey players are just in freakishly good shape. I mean, these guys, you talk about how they treat their core, how they treat their body, it's amazing. But if I'm talking about creative players in the NHL, truly creative guys where you watch, that is worth the price of admission just to watch him. So if I go Connor McDavid 1, because I can't think of anyone right now that I would spend more money on than him, because that would be number 1 for me. Do you have a 2 and 3? Or do you have one that's more than Connor McDavid for you?
Nobody more than Connor McDavid. And you're talking about your stick handling ability and the almost like the artistic view of what Patrick Kane's in the top 5.
Patrick Kane is, definitely I would pay to watch
Just because
that.
he's the kind of guy that stick handles out of a phone booth and you won't touch him.
Is Austin Matthews in that category? I think he produces. I think he's an outstanding player, but I don't know.
I don't know if he has that.
But because he's a different player.
Yeah, he is. He is. See, like Mitch Marner would be more of the stick handling type of player than an Austin Matthews, just based on what we saw this season. I mean, we could be wrong about it. I even remember Nazem Kadri's first couple of years in the NHL, he would stick handle and now he's kind of changed his game. I'm sure he still has that aspect of it, but you know what? Maybe because a lot of people draw the comparisons of a Mitch Marner being a poor man's Patrick Kane. I don't think he's there yet. I don't know if he'll ever get there yet, but even to draw in that same sort of realm of type of player would be a magnificent find. Like if we're talking about Mitch Marner in 3 or 4 years being a 90-point guy or an 80-point guy, I think the Leafs would sign off on that right now.
Well, I think, and I think down the road that's exactly what you're going to see. You're going to see them signing off on that. But a lot of it has to do with, to be honest, the ability when you're younger to have the kind of environment and the kind of coaching that doesn't immediately go into systems. Like I hear coaches, talking about an age that's a little younger than I thought would be interested in actually setting in on certain systems. But that's what they do, Dave. I don't know how many pond hockey guys do you see anymore? How many kids growing up now talk about their fathers making rinks? Because I'll be honest, hockey now is year-round. You're on the ice year-round. You're talking about spring hockey. You're talking about in the summer 3-on-3 hockey.
And weather's kind of changed, don't you think? Like, is it just me or
how do you build a rink now in we're talking Southern Ontario?
Yes.
I think it's almost impossible because the weather's just not good enough or cold enough with enough snow.
Because sometimes you have about 6 weeks. That's a little bit different in Manitoba, where we were skating on ice the first couple weekends of November. And sometimes that would go right till the end of March. Now that's not even the case there anymore, and it's just because of climate change and how much everything is a lot different. And the other aspect of it, Mike, is exactly what you said. People are starting summer leagues and spring leagues and fall leagues and, of course, the traditional winter league as well. So it doesn't go away.
Just last week we talked about Jeannie Bouchard, and she made some cracks about, it was Sharapova.
Yes.
That she would be allowed to play in tournaments. It wasn't, it was, she didn't word it that she was banned because of the, whatever the substance was. It was like Sleepies. It was Flintstones vitamins, whatever it was. I mean, let's leave Maria Sharapova right where she is. Leave her alone. Oh, but Jeannie did not. She called her a cheater.
She did. Went out of her way.
And so are you telling me today that now not that you wouldn't watch a Jeannie Bouchard Maria Sharapova match anyway. Russell, are you taping this? I'm sure you're really into it.
I am not taping it, but I will definitely watch the highlights.
Yeah, I'm going to watch that. And the other reason, because I got to be honest. Don't you think Sharapova, like if we're looking at it, isn't Sharapova just going to absolutely wipe the court with Jeannie Bouchard?
Well, she should. She's a massive, massive favorite.
So by the numbers, what do you mean
by the numbers? If you're betting on Sharapova, you're only getting a 114. And if you're betting on
114.
If you're betting on Jeannie Bouchard, you're getting a 527. So they're thinking that this is a straight set win, according to our numbers in Vegas.
I think I don't know if it's on now. I am getting a feed from Barcelona. Let's see what it's.
Yeah, I know you have picked up the feed.
Yeah.
Well, time change too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be a cat fight. Oh, cat fight. I was surprised actually. That's very un-Canadian what Jeannie did. Normally we don't say anything. Like we just you talk about yourself, how accountable you are, blah blah blah. And I'll be honest. If it was maybe a lesser player that couldn't wipe you off the face of the earth in a match, maybe you say something. But it's Maria Sharapova. Now, she's probably also on the other side of her dominance and her day.
Still probably easy to say. Like, obviously coming back from suspension, she isn't ranked as high as what she would have been, but I think it's safe to say she's a top 10 player.
You know what? I wouldn't. How would I even know anything about tennis? I know she's smoking hot. She's a good player. She's very attractive. All the things that you're not supposed to say about sports. What? That's not obvious? Oh, here's something else too. So the Kentucky Derby.
Oh boy.
So here's Tony Luciano. Here's Luch saying.
Hey, by the way, losers bet the favorites. That's all I got to say about that.
He said you could have made a lot of money on the Derby.
Yeah. Okay.
Smarten up. Smarten up. This is the second time you didn't listen to the Don. AO. Okay, first of all, Luch, the first name you sent me was not that name. You put in Gunnavera. Don't lie, because I'll bring it up on the screen. I don't like to embarrass people.
No, you do sometimes.
Okay, all right. That's exactly what I like to do. But you said Gunnavera, and Gunnavera I don't think even finished.
No, I
think
he still hasn't crossed the line.
Gunnavera is now in a glue bottle today. Gunnavera. Now you're telling me, and then he uses all that horse lingo. Oh, yeah, sure. I took the top flip-a-flop and did the sideways nectarine. And
my favorite is I put $20 on the horse, and I got back $25.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, who cares? Give me something that's going to pay.
I had some money on Irish War Cry.
Yeah.
Irish
exactly.
War Cry, which I thought was interesting. Because what I did, again, instead of just betting on the Cavs, I had to put together all these parlays. And so what I did, I thought 3 horses that would pay all right. So it was Irish War Cry. I took McCracken. How can you not take McCracken?
Great name, yeah.
You gotta take
Great
McCracken.
rum, too, by the way. McCracken rum.
McCracken.
Yeah.
The Kraken, yeah. And then I think it was like, there's a Classic Empire or something like that. But I wanted Irish War
You know
Cry.
what? Classic Empire, the two trainers trained here in Woodbine for about 5 years.
Well, I thought there was, and then ends up being the favorite. And now Luch is now all bragging about it. You don't know Luch. Actually, sometimes he does know.
Occasionally he does.
Because he wanted a couple of years ago, it was I'll have another. And he thought, how could you not bet on I'll have another? And I said, you're right. Okay, you're right.
See, that's a good point.
And by the way, he's the one who sent me to a doctor, and that doctor eventually saved my life. So
yeah, so
we're even now. We're breaking.
Yeah,
it's a tie.
I think it's fair.
Here's Jake, our good friend Jake. He said, my beer league team plays 5-month seasons and then 2-week playoffs. We only get 1 week off in between. Rough life. You tell me the beer leagues are tough now? But Dave, I don't even think you play beer league hockey.
I don't play beer league anymore. I don't have the time. I play rec league. I'll go in tournaments or if guys have ice somewhere and phone me up, and I'm kind of useless to them just because I can only play at certain times.
Yeah, but I also, hey, you played gold. Do you want to put the pads on and play?
You probably get that a lot just because people hunt for goaltenders sometimes.
I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I have no interest. Now, would I play out? Yeah, I guess I would.
Yeah.
But I also don't have a lot of. I don't want to be doing that either. If I did, I'd be like your brother Mike. Like, how often do you go to see your buddies say, why don't you come out and watch me play? What do you mean watch you play? What am I, your girlfriend? You're shit. And over 50. And it's a Saturday night at 11 o'clock or whatever.
See, those are the things that bug me about it, too. Because I have a group of friends that rent ice 11:30 on a Thursday.
Oh, Christ.
But I'm sorry, if I'm going out there at 11:30 on a Thursday, I'm coming home at 1, and you know how it is. When you're all wound up and you come home at 1 o'clock, you're not going to bed at 1:15. You're going to bed at 2:30, and then 6
but for
o'clock
the most
is
part,
right there.
we've always done morning shows.
Yes.
So the alarm's going off 3 hours, 4 hours later. Like
no thanks.
I don't see it.
Can't do it.
And I don't get the excitement of it. And all I hear about when guys get together, so your buddies are all sitting there, and correct me if I'm wrong. Those listening today, you talk about someone who you don't like. Like at some point you're getting together and going, "Oh yeah, we played fucking goof, guys, fucking goof." Yeah, and so then what happened? Well, you stick me, right? And so I go behind the net and you give me a fucking elbow. I'm like, why do you do this?
Yeah, things haven't changed.
Then just fight him then. Oh, there's no fighting. Here's Jake saying, never think of having a charity hockey tourney around Toronto. I would totally be in for that. I'll bring the keg. Well, you know what? The Cure for Cancer out at Woodbine is pretty cool, the street hockey thing.
We should get some of those guys on.
Well, I think that's Kevin Shea and all those guys.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. I know Jimmy Lang is a big part of that. I was there for the first time last year.
Well, we don't have to get Jim on, but We can get
No.
Kevin on.
Well, he said he's from Winnipeg by the definition of
No,
what
no,
those
he
players
isn't.
look like.
No.
Here's Kung Fu Zombie again. You guys are welcome to play on my beer league team. Death by cabbage rolls. You see, that's the Croatian team that they got there. You gotta like the Croatians. You gotta love the Croatians.
Do they play hockey though?
Well,
I haven't seen them at any World Championship
at the
anytime.
I saw some of the scores, by the way. I don't even know what was scrolling across. They're like, final score, Italy lost to, was it Russia? What am I watching? What Russia plays Italy?
Well, the World Championships, this is like an extended group, so it's not like your top 8 because you have teams like Slovenia in it who qualify for Group A, not World Championship B, which would be like teams like Great Britain and
Come on, look.
I have a hard time skating backwards, but I'm still going to ice a team.
Stick with what you know. If I'm talking about Great Britain, so it's footy and pints and eating fried food.
Yeah, and sometimes tennis.
And we don't even acknowledge that sport. So Italy, we know what that sport is. Although
downhill skiing,
seeing some of the, I know some of the professional leagues over there. Like guys, well, didn't when we talked to Glenn Anderson, didn't he say he played in Italy?
Yes, he did.
Because I've seen actually hockey. They got a hockey night in Milan.
Oh,
so in Milano they played hockey, and
that's original.
But so they let the Flares go again. The Flares is going off. Why? Like the guys with the drums. I know there's a name for it in soccer, in football. But they're playing the drums. They're there a half an hour before the game and half an hour afterwards. And then all kinds of flares and fire and fireworks are going off. What does that mean? Why do you do that? It's not exactly hooligans, but I don't think that even when, you're watching AS Roma or something like that, and you see the flares being shot at Buffon's head, or, well, he doesn't play for Roma now, but you're out there and you're aiming like it's Michael Jackson doing a Pepsi commercial, and all of a sudden flames are going off in the guy's head.
There's a good reference.
I don't understand. I don't get that. That I don't get. I also, back to Liverpool, what were you doing? You know how much money you cost me? And they're saying, well, why wouldn't you just bet on the Cavs? Speaking of betting on basketball, if that comes up again and it's the Cavs and who? Because I'm looking at that Washington Celtics series.
Do they just walk over whoever they play? Because I'm thinking yes. And I'm thinking it's probably Boston, even though Wizards got themselves back in it.
It might be Washington.
Yeah.
Because those last two games, and as I said, I understand the NBA at times not that close. Like depending, just it is really hard to follow the ebb and flow on what happens on a day-to-day, in a game-to-game basis. But I'm taking a look at that series, and I'm not so sure Washington doesn't come through with that. And I've also figured that Gortat should have been someone in the Ten Commandments in the movie. Whether it's a pharaoh, a guy on the, throwing spears, pushing Charlton Heston down. He's got to be one of those guys. Maybe he's a pyramid guy. Gortat's got a very strange look, but boy, does he play. I'm looking at that Washington team. And Wall, watching John Wall play.
John Wall is fantastic, and he's getting better and better. He's one of those players that, he was drafted very high. Expectations were so high right from the start, but he really hasn't panned out until a couple of years later. Now he's the guy, man.
Now, and to follow up on the conversation we had with Will Strickland, I happen to think too, it's just that players come out of college because they're not seniors. That you've got to take the kind of time to. It's almost like your mini D league on your own team. Like it might take a couple of years. I mean, there's very few guys that come in and are blue chip right away. Does it exist? It does, but it's the rarity. It's the exception. It's not the rule. And so I think guys like John Wall, remember what he was like in college. He was unbelievable. So maybe it's taken the kinds of years that he normally would have had, and now he's grown into his own body. I mean, it does. Even though they come out of college, they look big. They're still kids as far as I'm concerned. And it takes a while to develop them into being a seasoned NBA pro. And I think that's what you're seeing. He also came out, didn't he, with that crazy shoe? Isn't he got the new shoes? Is it John Wall that's got those shoes that came out the other day? They're like $500 a pair or something.
I thought it was LeVar Ball.
Oh, it was LeVar Ball.
Yeah.
I
big
thought,
ballers.
Because I'm like, I would buy John Wall shoes if I thought I could play like that. LeVar Ball, do you want those?
No. And I don't want anything to do with his dad either. His big mouth dad. Good God. Honestly. The guy's spoiling it for his kid. He really is.
He kind of is not. Who threatened him? Someone said they wanted to fight him.
Was it Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah.
If you ever get a chance,
Wow. Who do you
Stephen-
cheer? Who do you cheer for in that fight?
Could they both lose? Honestly, like if you look at that, because they had them on, and LeVar's dad sitting there saying how he could beat Michael Jordan 1-on-1, and I just some of the stupidity of the conversation. It was
Who says that?
nobody should.
And here's the other argument that I don't know why people get into. When they start talking about generational great players, and they start talking about, okay, so Bill Russell, if he was in today's NBA, he wouldn't even make the team. But why do you compare, the 60s, even late 50s, 60s, 70s with what you see in 2017 in any sport?
Mm-hmm.
So would Arnold Palmer or Jack Nicklaus be on the tour with what they – but look what they were using. Look at the golf clubs and the golf balls.
Completely different scenarios.
Look at what the golf of that moment in time. Just like looking at, I don't know, hockey in the 70s and 80s. If you want to compare their skating ability or lack of it and the kinds of players they had in that league, at that time, that was the best that the planet had to offer. Skill set, equipment only went so far of that time. Why do people want to get into the all-time arguments and talk about who would make it and who wouldn't? It's a ridiculous conversation. I've never understood that. Because we're talking about, as I said, if it's golf, the equipment's changed. So even tennis. Look what they used in tennis.
Yep, wooden rackets.
They were like ukuleles. Those things. and look, maybe that's the reason I don't watch it anymore. I mean, look, the speed of the serve itself are just ridiculous with what they do. Like I'll tell you what, maybe this is the guy who killed it for me. It was Pete Sampras.
Pistol Pete.
What was the serve? Like 100,000 miles an hour or whatever it was. So you watch a guy sit there and blast the ball away. And I didn't want to say anything, but then he'd take off his shirt. And there would be another sweater. You know what I mean? Like that's just not good.
A bear wearing a Speedo.
It's just not. Yeah, that's not a good. Do you wear Speedos, by the way, Russell? Are you a bit of a Speedo guy?
It's a terrible look.
Yeah,
not a Speedo guy.
No.
Has that ever been a good look, though?
No,
even
never.
though people have done that.
Even when you're in the Olympics, it's
So
like just do it for the race, though, right? You're not going to go to the snack bar with that on. Like there's a snack bar, I guess, after they finish a race. I have no idea what's going on. I really don't.
No.
Let's also talk about what's coming up this week. Sort of interesting. We're going to talk to Clark Gillies.
Okay.
Who else are we going to talk to? Ed Bouchette from Pittsburgh. Who talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now there, I think, is an interesting argument. Now we talk about don't compare different eras, but there are certain organizations, even with the differences in players, that always seem to play a similar style. They have a similar aura, and from year to year, they're able to keep that consistency and always achieve a certain level. So I think, is it because of the Rooney family? Like, why does an organization like Pittsburgh always seem to be competitive? They always seem to have a style of play that's very consistent year over year. What is it? We'll talk to Ed about that because the Steelers where are we putting the Steelers this year? Top 5?
Steelers, I would, in the conference, I'd put them in the number 3 spot because I have the Oakland Raiders at number 2. I have the Steelers at number 3, and then you can kind of go in different directions if you're going to throw Baltimore in the mix or maybe Kansas City, Denver. Some people think the Tennessee Titans will be a nice surprise story because they are slated for win totals of around 9.5. So if you're hitting that, you're winning that division. I'm curious to see what the Houston Texans do at the quarterback position because
that's interesting.
Because they say Watson will be a quarterback of this team this year. Maybe not out of the gate,
but he's going to get some.
But he's going to get some.
I think he's going to get some time.
And they got a very good defense, Mike. So defense can cover up a lot of deficiencies on the other side of the ball. We saw that with the Jets when Mark Sanchez used to lead the team. Sanchez kind of controlled the offense to a certain extent when he wasn't making mistakes. The defense was like number 1 in the league, and that's why they went to back-to-back conferences.
It's painful at times knowing that the shortage at the quarterback position. And I'll go to. I mean, when we talk about the NFL, you look at the Houston Texans over the last couple of years, and you almost cringe when you see who's starting at quarterback. And if we're doing that, imagine being on the defensive side of the ball, where you bring the coach over and say, "Psst, can I talk to you for a second? don't we have anybody else that this is going? Is there just any? Does anyone have a friend?
It's so true.
Like, because it looks so. Like, I mean, it almost to the point where it feels like a waste of time. And so and also a guy like Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I don't know how much time he should probably in the real world shouldn't see any time.
Shouldn't see the field this year. Shouldn't see the field.
This is the day and age
I know.
where
I know. I'm just saying. I
mean, look at Eli Manning's first year. It was like, no. The Giants are going to take the time. I think that was what, game 3? And was it Kurt? I think it was Kurt Warner at the time. Was it not?
At the time, yeah, it was a struggling quarterback for that team too.
So he got into maybe 2 games, and they're like, "All right, Manning, you're in." And you know how he just always looks so disheveled. He looks like that mathlete that doesn't really, kind of afraid of recess because some guy's like taking his finger and pushing it in his chest, going, "Yeah, and next time, make sure your sandwich tastes better, and tell your mom not to put so much jelly on it, you loser." That's right, guys. You know what I mean? Like, he just looks, he always looks sad or confused. And guess what? Look at his record in Super Bowls and stuff. That's
amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Although it helps when guys make catches, sandwiching the ball to the top of their helmet in their hand.
Circus-like, exactly.
I still look at that catch and go, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, that's that keeps the drive alive. Oh, it kept the drive alive, all right.
Yeah. And the Manningham catch a couple years later.
It just seems to happen. Who's the most irritating team in the NFL for you? With just stuff that they do. You see them and you just never want them to win.
The Giants are one of those
Giants
teams
are in that category for me.
Just because I'm a Jets fan, right? And you always have that argument of Jets-Giants. It just hasn't been a very good one for me lately. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's an argument. And for years, for me, it was Seattle. Seattle were just it seemed like if you were a Seattle fan, you also were like a Vancouver Canuck fan, which is that Western thing. And I don't dislike them because I like Coach Carroll, like I do. I like what he has brought to that organization. I think it has become a program, if you want to use the Marv Levy definition of a professional program. I think he's also made it almost, and you don't see this a whole, at least I don't think you see it a whole bunch. It's more prevalent now, where it looks like they're like a Pac-10 team. It looks like university on the sidelines, because generally you're not hugging players, and the players aren't hugging their coach. I mean, they're not doing that in a lot of other teams. I can't see a lot of coaches being hugged in the NFL, but he is. He's one of them, and they have that energy on the sideline that is reminiscent of playing in college. So that part I kind of like.
Yeah.
But the fans just seem to get on my, like I said, like Canuck fans, they get on my nerves.
Maybe it's something about the Pacific Northwest.
Maybe it is that.
Just
Who
saying.
else is it? Kansas City can sometimes be a bit of a drain, patience-wise, just watching them progress and then not being exciting.
Progress. Boom.
Baltimore can really just bore the shit out of me at times. Baltimore can be just, please put a bullet in my face.
But the one thing I love about Baltimore, no matter how good or bad they are, they'll always cover a spread against the Steelers. Always.
Well,
and you know what? To you,
yeah.
I thank you.
And we're talking a spread of like, what, -2.5,
yes.
-2? They're
yes,
always
it's
small.
Always small.
Like for years, it's like, what's the final score going to be in a Steelers-Ravens game? 13-10.
You can almost mark that down.
13-10, 16-13. That's a big game.
Yeah, it's a big game. A little bit of an offensive output.
If you want to take under 34, take under 34. Because they're not. For most years, that was not going to happen.
And it's funny because that will happen in a Steelers game, and then the next week the Steelers will put 45 on a team. And it's like, where the hell was this last week?
Yeah, and that's a little bit different because, trust me, my son. Oh, by the way, if my son is watching, he's out in Calgary, works at a place called The Cellar. It's a wine boutique. He's done very well for himself. Happy birthday, son.
It's today?
Today. May
Hey,
the 8th.
happy birthday.
May the 8th.
Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't know that.
And he also says he comes home and his buddies, they put it on the big screen and they watch it when they get back. And you can do that too, of course. Go to MikeRichards.com or subscribe to the YouTube channel as well.
That's probably even better to do, yeah.
Yeah, these things we're kind of finding out as we go. It's still very
You
new.
get the updates. You get everything that's happening with the show. And also, if you subscribe, there's probably a couple free gifts in there. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's coming up. We've got some stuff coming up, and you keep saying stuff is going to come up because it is. Don't push me. I didn't win on the weekend. Cavaliers, was that not the easiest money of all time? So anyway, but we've got, as I said, some interesting guests coming up this week, and looking forward to it. We also, I said, there's a really big, huge one coming up in like a week and a half. I can't say who it is, but I am very excited about that as well as we move along.
Is it Russell Graham?
It is Russell Graham's
Ooh.
mom. Oh, that's not what's supposed to play.
Playoffs
Okay.
2017.
Ooh. Okay, I believe in the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. The Penguins wrap up the series against the Washington Capitals, and if they don't, oh, man.
But do you realize you're, at least the number that I got on that was a 1-8. Isn't that a good number for Pittsburgh?
I think that's a great number.
Like, I thought for sure it'd be like a 1-6.
Like I thought the series was going to be over right now. But clearly the Capitals have shown a little bit of pushback. I mean, don't get me wrong here. I thought the series was going to be over a lot faster just because Braden Holtby has been terrible. He's been the second worst goaltender out of the remaining teams right now in save percentage. He never played that well against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And you know what? You have to keep on stepping up your game, not regressing. And that's exactly what he's done. I think the Penguins wrap it up tonight.
What happens in the Frico New York-Ottawa series?
I'd like to say that goes to a 7th game. The Rangers tying this series go a 7th game. Plus, you know what? Sign me up for as many 7 games as possible because I love the 7th game. By the way, Mississauga and Erie tonight. It's Game 3 of the OHL Championship. Erie have won 2 games in Pennsylvania, so the Steelheads and Steely are up against it. But Mississauga has to get back in it today. Right, Steely?
Oh, hey. Come on, win. They're a pretty good fucking team. Steely. By the way, we could be doing a remote from their golf tournament.
I hope so.
Yeah, so that could be the. By the way, depending on the area you're in, if you'd like us to show up, we're starting to discuss the logistical abilities for us to actually
the possibilities,
get out there,
right?
Get the camera out there and do a show from the golf course. And, of course, we'll be at Hockley Valley in July, right?
July, what is it, 13th, 12th?
Yeah, for
like
Aiden and our good friend Jay. So we'll
Jay
have,
Barks.
Yeah, so we'll have more details on that as well when it comes to us, as we like to say, going places.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep. You want to go do karate in the garage? Yep. It's
I'd like to thank everybody who joined us here on the show today, which was no one. We'll thank Henry's Cameras, Canada's camera store. Just look for the orange. Avi Studio. Ben and Lauren. Lauren working hard. Ben not.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Also, our good friends at Eggplant doing what they do. Remember, subscribe to RawMikeRichards.com, YouTube channel as well. And remember, watch for iTunes for the podcast. Have yourself a great day. We'll talk to you on Tuesday.